Hello, everybody. It's Miss Carter again. I'm just here today to talk to you about, with our pollution unit, we're looking at water pollution today. And so, with water pollution, same thing as with air pollution and noise pollution and any other kind that we're talking about. It's when you put something that is not meant to be there into the ecosystem or into the environment around you. This time we're talking about water. Definition of water pollution is change in water quality that can harm organisms or make water unfit for human use. And so we're talking about, plants and animals here and how we basically put things into the water. Sometimes it's stuff that happens naturally, sometimes it's unnatural, more times it's unnatural. And how it affects us, and also affects the environment. Let's see, there's two different types. There's what's called point source and non-point source. Basically, what a point source is it's where you can actually pinpoint where the pollution is coming from. Okay, it's a specific, like you can trace back. Okay, so it's located at specific places, easy to identify, easy to monitor, easy to regulate, and at times even easy to, well, sometimes easy to stop. Okay, but we're actually able to prevent a lot easier with the point source one. Excuse me. Then the other one is the non-point source. And basically, going to be the opposite of the point source. So this is going to be something that's hard to trace down, hard to find the exact spot of where the pollution enters the system. So this happens in large areas, difficult to identify exactly where, difficult to control, a lot more expensive to clean up because you don't know, like I said, exactly where it started or who to blame or who to, get to pay for it, anything like that. Okay, so that's non-point source. Also, with water pollution, there's three main causes or three main sources of water pollution. Agricultural, some of that is just, stuff that's been happening for thousands of years, natural stuff like erosion. Other things are more current, like fertilizers and pesticides. We talked about how with more people in the world now, we need to be able to grow more food. And so with genetic modification, genetic engineering, part of that is also putting fertilizer to make them grow faster, grow more, and then pesticides to keep away the insects and other things that may want to eat it. But that can get into our water supply. Industrial facilities, which would basically be factories, things like that. And they put both inorganic and organic chemicals into the water. And then we've got mining. Mining is something that has to happen. We have to have different minerals and things like that in our everyday, just everything that we do. And that when we mine, it causes erosion, unnatural erosion, and also toxic chemicals can go into the water then as well. The two main types of pollution that you're going to be concerned with in here is stream pollution and ocean pollution. Okay, those are the two main ones we're focusing on. They're not the only two out there, but they're the two we're focusing on. With stream pollution, it happens in developed countries as well as in less developed countries, but the less developed countries are the ones we're going to focus on because they're the ones with the fewer restrictions. They don't really have as many laws against it because money is what's important there. I mean, money is important here as well, but we also have laws that try to regulate it more here. Half of the world's 500 major rivers are polluted by untreated sewage and industrial waste. You can see here the Chinese Yangtze River, which is a huge river in China. A lot of traffic on it. They use it for growing crops. They use it for a variety of different stuff. But you can see here how much pollution and just sediment and gross, just trash, is building up there in the Yangtze because China's a very populated area, a very populated country, and you only got so much space to put trash. And so you can see here that that's one example of the pollution and of the major rivers. Lakes are less effective at diluting pollutants than streams. So one good thing about streams and rivers is that they flow. Okay, and so because of that, eventually those toxins, those pollutants, that trash, eventually is going to flow downstream and be away. The problem is the next part we go into, which is oceans. It's got to flow somewhere, and so that's when it pollutes the ocean. With lakes, you don't have that because they don't really flow most of the time. Sometimes they have, outlet streams, but most of the time they don't. And because there's little or no water flow, it can take hundreds of years, if not more, or completely, the lake could die off, to be able to change the chemical makeup of the water in the lake. Okay, so that's the big thing with the streams, excuse me, and rivers. All of this kind of comes into the idea of groundwater. And you can see here in the illustration all of the different ways that our groundwater is affected. And why this is so important is groundwater is what we use to take care of our soil, to water our plants, to drink. They do some, if you live in a suburban area or in an area where there is a treatment plant, you can get that stuff out of it. But if you're, somebody that lives in the country, then you don't have that. You have the natural well water. And so if that stuff gets into it, we have some treatment, but it's not the same thing. Okay, so the groundwater, it's also what our animals feed on or drink on. It's very important. Okay, it does a lot. All of those chemicals that we talked about earlier, when it gets into our groundwater, it makes it undrinkable and makes it unusable. Okay, there's a lot of different ways that we could try and treat the gold water or the groundwater. Like you said, there's treatment plants and things like this, but honestly, the cheapest and the easiest way is just to prevent it, prevent the pollution from getting into the groundwater in the first place. And then the last thing here is the three big ideas in with dealing with water pollution is there are a number of ways to purify drink water, like I said, but the easiest way is to prevent it and the cheapest. The key to protecting the oceans is to reduce the flow of pollution from land, air, and streams emptying into the oceans, like we talked about with like the Yangtze River. Everything will flow. It eventually ends up in the ocean. And so that's becoming a very big problem in our oceans as well. And reducing water pollution, easiest way is to prevent it. Just don't do it. We have to work along with nature in treating sewage. Nature has its own ways of trying to get rid of things that don't belong there. We need to kind of work with that. And then use natural resources far more efficiently. Means, things like the fossil fuels, coal, even our water. We have to be very diligent, very careful with how we're using that. Okay, so that is water pollution. For your assignment today, you have the Ed puzzle first. The Ed puzzle is right here. It's on water pollution, same as always. You need to get a 60% or higher on it. So if you don't get that, email Miss Mills or I, and we will reset it for you. And then your exit ticket is here on Cami. And on this, all you got to do is you can do text box, and you can do it one of two different ways. You can either text directly into here, or down below here, you can text, but you put a text box like number one, and what is that? Or you can put number one next to, which one of these it belongs to, whatever. Okay, so either way is fine with me and with Miss Mills. Just as long as you answer them, you're good. All right, and I think that is it for today. If you have any questions or if something's not working for you, just let us know, and see you next time. Thanks, guys.